Hi, welcome back to another video where we analyze Love is Blind Season 4. And in this video, we're going to talk about Micah, another controversial character this season, and explain some of her decisions and her relationships. As a disclaimer, again, Netflix has only released the first 8 episodes so far, and I understand that this is an edited TV show, so I'm only commenting on what's been shown to us. I do not claim to know these people. So the big questions with Micah are, why did she choose Paul over Kwame? What her decisions say about her? And are you really the company that you keep? So in short, I think Micah chose Paul over Kwame purely because she deep down is somewhat competitive. I think she loves drama, and as a result, she is seduced by emotionally unavailable men. This is clearly illustrated when we compare the two scenes where both Paul and Kwame try to corner her into making a decision.
I do have a very, very, very strong connection with someone else. It's going in every direction that you would want it to go as a person who wants to be cared for.
Here, both men actually start off with the same tactic. They both tell Micah that they have another option.
I'm gonna fall in love.
Does that mean you're just over there like telling Amber you love her?
Definitely felt like really good about her.
The only difference here is that Kwame, by the end of the interaction, has completely expressed his preference for Micah, pretty much dumped Chelsea, and basically proposes to Micah early.
I'm so sure about you. I want to propose earlier.
Versus with Paul, who never actually needed to express his feelings for Micah. Instead, he puts her in a position where she must reveal all her cards and express her commitment to him before he then reciprocates without having to ever be vulnerable himself.
Whenever you think about me and you think about Kwame, and who do you see yourself saying yes to?
I mean, it's really clear to me. And like that person that I would say yes to is you.
Do you think if we agreed to just go for each other, maybe you wouldn't feel risky to me anymore?
I think so.
Let's do it then.
As a side note, I think Paul also chose Micah not necessarily out of a feeling of love, but out of competition, which is quite typical of TI introverted thinking types. I think Paul did like both Micah and Amber equally. However, it was only when Amber gave him a red flag, which meant Micah became the front runner.
Have you ever cheated on a spouse, or would you?
I'd like to think that I wouldn't, but I think that it would have led down to that road just because I wasn't happy.
Yeah, kind of a red flag.
Wait, you think that's a red flag with me?
And at the same time, Kwame was telling Paul how much he loved her, which is how his personality type tries to pee on his territory. And then this spurs Paul on to secure things with Micah.
Since day one, I've had Micah as my number one. Mm-hmm. They've always been there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Everything I want in a woman is there, is in Micah, you know?
Mm. I love Kwame. I think he's a great guy. But I definitely feel pressured to make a move on either Amber or Micah. I've realized what it would feel like if Micah were to end it, and it's that feeling that just puts me damn near in a fight or flight.
TI introverted thinking dominant types do not have FI, which is introverted feeling. So because they don't have conscious access to how they feel, they tend to only realize their feelings after they've lost something or when they're about to lose something or someone. It's almost like they have to work their emotions backwards. So I feel sad that I'm about to lose this person or I've lost this person. Therefore, I probably did really love them. overall personality type-wise, Kwame is her shadow. So the shadow is the personality type that is completely different from yourself, but is also the most compatible with you. In this pairing, the opposite functions actually feed off each other very well because everything is at the same level.
Yo, I'm telling you, when you have like a good mindset and you just like, you're optimistic.
It's when you
things
manifest,
happen.
like you
Yes.
attract it.
Yes, it's crazy. Manifestation is such a real thing to me.
It's such a real thing. I'm so passionate about that. Like, law of attraction is like huge.
It's huge.
It's huge.
The shadow is someone that we should instantly click with. We find them very easy to read and vice versa. It's someone who can handle us.
Micah is amazing. I can feel her energy from behind the wall. Micah is my number one.
But when I'm with Kwame, he validates my feelings, he calms me, and it like brings me back like down to earth.
Versus Paul is less compatible with her, but that makes him harder for her to read and therefore creates higher tension and chemistry.
Paul is just kind of like my twin flame. Like, he makes me feel so like excited and nervous. I feel like he's gonna keep me on my toes for the rest of my life, and that's what I've always wanted.
She and Paul will also look up to each other's dominant functions. So her lower TI will look up to his higher TI, which is his intelligence, his competence, and his lower FE will look up to her higher FE, which is her warmth, her ability to connect with anyone. Therefore, from her perspective, she would actually be more impressed by Paul, whereas she feels more in sync with Kwame rather than being in awe of him. I do think that Micah has a darker side to her, and you can see this in the company she keeps and how she strings Kwame along.
Seeing Kwame, I think he's super handsome, and like I think he's just as wonderful as I imagined. That wasn't me saying I didn't want you. It was me saying like I needed to like think and make sure I was making the right decision for both of us, because I think that there's a very good chance I could have been like you till the end.
So Micah's the type of person I feel that always keeps her options open. She never shuts any doors unless she is cornered to shut the doors.
I don't know. I just want you to know, like, if you ever want to talk about anything, I know you're really happy now. I'm just like still here. No, I think you're so great.
I think you're so great too.
At the pool party, beyond her sort of telling Kwame that she still cares for him, which one could argue is just something you can do if you want to be amicable with an ex, she then literally lets Kwame take her left hand and gesture putting on a wedding ring.
And whatever happens, I will be here. Like, I will. I'll still be here.
Yeah.
Which I think oversteps the mark a bit, because it then allows him to imagine and pine after the idea of proposing to her. To be honest, the aspect of keeping her options open is related to her personality type. If we look at her functions, she actually doesn't have the two functions that would be in charge of closing doors. So firstly, she doesn't have NI, introverted intuition, which is the function of certainty. And she also doesn't have TE, extraverted thinking, which is the function that concludes, it prioritizes and ranks things. Secondly, she in particular has the function NE, extraverted intuition, in the third position. NE deals with the multiple possibilities of how something can pan out. And the third position in our stack is known as the child function. So it's a very optimistic position. If you're kind of immature or feeling kind of cocky, it can be a bit reckless as well. So she has NE in that optimistic position, which means she's very optimistic about all the possibilities without knowing which possibility is the most likely. hence keeping all the options open, all the doors open. And I don't actually think keeping doors open is inherently itself a bad thing. I see that as just, one of many strategies in life, hence the different personality types and the functions we have. What is the problem is when the particular individual, regardless of the personality type, uses this in a reckless way versus a responsible way. As to the company she keeps, we already know that her bestie on the show is the very unpopular Irina. Not just unpopular among viewing audience, but actually none of the other girls liked her.
And you were her only friend. She literally she ostracized herself from everyone else.
I was like her lifeline.
And this week, we got to meet Micah's even more intense actual real life best friend, Shelby.
You're a hater. I'm not a hater. I'm the most protective person in Micah because that's my best friend in the entire world, and I will never not be skeptical because of how I feel about her, and I just think that I need more.
Who I hope we can all agree is very selfish, very possessive, manipulative, emotionally volatile. Interestingly, I think that both Irina and Shelby are Micah's shadows, and I feel that Micah deep down harbors the same mean streak that these girls have, except that Micah doesn't dare to wear that loud and proud like her friends do.
Either way, I'll have something a little bitchy to say at some point. So keep it up.
I want to be nicer. I'm not nice at all.
Why don't you then?
What?
Why don't you then?
I don't know, because I'm feeling real emotions and it's just all of it's a lot, dude.
And so instead, she uses her shadow besties to sort of action her dirty work.
Is she crying or laughing?
How did
Is she crying or laughing?
crying?
What's she saying over there? Go stand by the thing and listen. No, but don't be obvious. Don't let them see you.
Beyond that, when she herself gets a bit cocky or is a bit uninhibited with alcohol, she also emulates that same cruel behavior.
Wait, come here. I shot for a failed proposal.
Failed proposal? Whoa. Woo.
I'm just kidding.
Why is Kwame so mean? Kwame mean.
I also think that Micah keeps these types of friends around her because she subconsciously enjoys people fighting over her. It's like having all that drama, expression of emotion and passion evolve around her makes her feel like the sun.
I mean, Shelby has single-handedly terminated relationships for me.
A couple of them. I'm not kidding,
Single-handedly.
because they weren't good people and they sucked. Don't say that kind of stuff to me. I'll get pissed.
She's easily angered.
I mean, can't say that I care.
Don't be like that. That's literally the worst attitude to have.
You're meant to have the most spectacular everything. You're Micah. I think you deserve that. You're meant to have the best wedding of your life. You're meant to have all of this, and this isn't it.
So this is the value of knowing someone's personality type or working out what functions they have, because in Micah's case, we know that her dominant function, in fact her top function, is FE, extroverted feeling. So what we could expect from her is to be a very good reader of emotions, of feelings and values, and very skilled, or should be very skilled, at being able to respond respond to people's emotional needs. Yet what she chooses to do sometimes is to do something very hurtful, like saying to Kwame, let's cheers to me dumping you, essentially. And because you know what she is otherwise capable of, she doesn't use her FE to uplift people. Instead, she uses it to manipulate their feelings to her own advantage. Versus, for example, if we compare her with Paul. So Paul did something quite insensitive as well. He, after breaking up with Amber, he felt terrible that he had to break someone's heart. So then he vents to, of all people, Kwame, who he indirectly caused the broken heart.
Man, to hear somebody come into a conversation so happy, so full of love and joy, and then have to kill that.
So it exists in some capacity.
Definitely, yeah.
And then it fucking dies like that.
Yeah.
And you're
by
fucking miserable.
By your own hand at that? If it dies by someone else's hand, at least you have a villain. But if you're the villain of your own story, it's like, oof.
In this scenario, some of us might say that is quite insensitive. Like, why are you rubbing it in Kwame's face? But if you know Paul's functions, you would see that his feeling function, his FE, is actually at the lowest position. And in that position, it has all the desire to relate to people and connect with people and read people's feelings, but it wouldn't have necessarily the skill to. It wouldn't do it as skillfully, definitely compared to someone like Micah. And so what Paul did there to Kwame, I judge it as more of a blunder, more of just being really clumsy.
It's tough to be the villain in your own story. It's really funny because with no intention at all, in that moment, it did feel like he was the villain in mine.
That's the value of knowing people's functions, because Micah and Paul can both be judged as being insensitive in those particular two scenarios. However, when we know their functions, we can better judge the intent. So then you decide how much patience you have for different people. So I would argue that Micah could have done better. She knew exactly what she was doing, and I would say it was malicious. Versus with Paul, he probably was just not reading the situation right at all, and he was just being an idiot. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope it was helpful and interesting. Please like and subscribe to support my channel. And if you wanted us to analyze your personality type and how that relates to some of your decisions, relationships, then please see booking details in the description box below.